get started. So I don't think we'll need props today. I'm going to start seated for a second while I talk, sitting on a blanket, but we will just be moving pretty sustainably. If you usually use props, you can grab blocks or something. But we've been talking about faith this month. And I've really been focusing on the open, trusting aspects of faith. But it doesn't work unless we have evidence and some confidence in the thing that we're placing our trust and faith in. And, you know, Paul tells us that in Hebrews. He says that faith is the evidence of things hoped for and not seen. And that's something that we can explore in our practice too. As we are consistent, we amass evidence that, you know, of principles of how our bodies work and integrate, right? And it's that study that and that experience and that investigation that gives us the evidence that we can place some trust and confidence in. I'm just going to read a little bit of words from Orson Pratt. He said, faith or belief is the result of evidence presented to the mind. Without evidence, the mind cannot have faith in anything. We believe that a stone will fall when unsupported on the evidence of past observation in relation to the falling of heavy bodies. We believe in all the great truths of science, either on the evidences of our own investigations or on the researches of others. We believe in historical facts on the evidence of the historian. Faith in every fact, statement, truth, or proposition which we have confidence in is, in all cases whatsoever, derived from evidence. Therefore, without evidence, faith can have no existence. He says, the great principle called faith is not an abstract principle separate and distinct from the mind, but it is a certain condition or state of the mind itself. And it's an openness to seeing the evidence just on face value, trying to let go of our presuppositions of what should or will happen and seeing things as they really are. And that takes that openness and trust that we've been talking about. So as we move today and the movements that we do kind of build on each other, right? You may gain evidence from something you've done prior to inform how you move later in the practice. And I just want you to take that as a life lesson from this practice today, that we amass evidence and that builds our confidence in our faith and our efficacy and power, and that has to be built on something true, right? And we know that the most true and the firmest foundation for our faith is Jesus Christ. So we'll start just seated, and I'm actually going to face the short edge of my mat. And move my phone here so it can be my clock. And sit back on your hands or your fists and just let your knees be bent in front of you. And just move your knees windshield wiper from side to side. And use this movement here to start to tune into your breath. Let your movement kind of flow with your breath. And find a little openness in your heart and some integration of your shoulders. And you can move and change your hand position as much as you need to. Just getting familiar with those hips as we start. And then you can start to let your twists get even a little bigger and maybe lift one arm up and swim it around. Let this be pretty fluid and intuitive because we're just greeting our bodies first thing in the morning. And as you reach, you can think about reaching from the back of your heart and behind that shoulder blade. And next time our right hand is down and we come to the right side, we're just going to stay there in a 90-90 position. So I've got my right leg at a 90-degree angle, my left leg at a 90-degree angle. And we're going to let ourselves just kind of lean here to kind of bring some of the pressure out of this internal rotation of your left hip. But I want you to just play with it here by engaging that left glute and kind of pushing it forward, and then pushing your pelvis back and kind of deepening the crease here right in front of that left hip. And just play with that a few times, just moving and rocking your pelvis back and forth. Let yourself breathe in and out of your nose. Next time your hip comes forward, just leave it there. You can turn on that left glute and then maybe lengthen your torso a little bit more. And just let yourself rest on that right hand, however feels good for you. And then bring your awareness to this front leg, to your right leg. Flex through your ankle and then push the outer edge of that leg, your thigh and your shin, down into the floor with all your might. And then kind of release that effort. And do it 2 more times. Push, 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 push into the floor. And then release that effort. So we just got that isometric contraction, pushing that right leg into the floor, the whole length of it with a flexed right ankle. And then release. Now bring your awareness to that back leg. Flex through that left ankle behind you. And the same thing, I want you to push the whole length of your leg into the floor. You're doing that adduction, pushing toward the center, and then release that effort. We'll just do that 2 more times. Push, 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 push. And then release that effort. And 1 more time. Push, push, push. And then release. All right. Now, it may take an experiment here with how far away your right hand is. We're going to lift the whole right leg. So flex that right ankle and see if you can lift so your shin's parallel with the floor, and then you can lower. And you can kind of experiment here, like how upright you want your torso. We're just going to lift and lower. And try to lift it all in one piece. Lift and lower. And it's not going to be very big. Okay, lift and see if you can just hold, 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 and then lower. Okay, release that effort. And now we're going to try with the back leg, with your left leg. And you can find your angle with your upper body. Flex through that foot. Now try to keep your shin parallel with the floor and just lift that back leg and lower. And try to use your hip more than you're using your side waist. Lift and lower. Lift and lower. Try to do it all in one piece. Lift and lower. Lift and hold. and then lower. Okay, now we're going to try to ground this right heel. Flex that right foot and lift. So not trying to sickle at your ankle, trying to ground your knee, sorry, and then lift your foot as much as you can. So we're doing this external rotation of this right leg. And it'll probably happen more in your imagination than in real life. At least for me, it certainly does. And then release. Okay, we'll let go, relax your muscles there. Now we're going to try with our left leg. So find the angle you need with your upper body. We're going to push into that right knee and lift your left heel. And you can pulse that a few times. Lift your heel and lower, grounding through that knee and just lifting your heel. So we're internally rotating. We're kind of working all of this around our hip joint. And then pause and just hold it up. And then release. Turn onto your bum and just find those easy and windshield wipers again of your legs. And just kind of shake out that effort. Notice if it feels different now than it did earlier. And if it feels different in your right hip than your left hip. And then we're going to go to our left side and do the same thing again. So I'm just going to turn so that I'm facing you. But left leg is forward now. Okay, and then you can just find the length that you need. We're going to start by just pushing this right hip forward and then increasing the hip crease here. So you're just kind of taking that femur bone, moving it toward the front plane of your body, and then pushing it toward the back. Just back and forth. You know, and the more upright your torso is, the more intense it will be. And this is the very beginning of our practice. So try to be pretty even on this side as you were on the first side. So you're just kind of engaging that right glute to push forward and then pushing it back. And then you can kind of release that effort, find a neutral place for that right hip. And then flex through your left foot. You know, the whole length of your left leg, you're just going to isometrically push into the floor with all your might. And then release that effort. And again, push it down. And then release. And one last time, push the whole outer edge of that left leg into the floor. Your outer thigh, your knee, the side of your calf, the edge of your foot, and then release. Okay, inner edge of that right leg, we're gonna push into the floor with all your might. So that inner knee, inner shin, and you're engaging these right inner thigh muscles to push down. They probably don't touch the floor though. And then release that effort. And just do it 2 more times with your breath. Just pushing down. And then release. And then push down. With all your might, see if you can really, really push, push, push. And then release that. Okay, flex through that left ankle. We're going to try to keep our shin parallel with the floor and just lift up that left shin and put it down. And lift it up and put it down. Lift it up and put it down. Lift it up and put it down. This time lift it up and hold. And then release down. Okay, keep your right shin as parallel with the floor as you can. Lift it up and put it down. And then lift it up and put it down. Lift it up and put it down. Lift it up and hold. Lower down. And now ground through that left knee, flex through your left foot, and see if you can just try to push that thigh and knee down as you lift your outer ankle up without sickling through your ankle as much as possible. So you're turning on all of this external rotation and then release. Okay, ground through your right knee, flex through your right foot, and lean out as much as you need to get the leverage to keep your knee grounded and lift your heel and then lower. And do it 4 times. And last one, just hold it there. So working on all this internal rotation of that right leg. And then release, rock back onto your bum and find those windshield wipers from side to side. Knees come to the right, and then use your right arm as a kickstand and then stack your left knee on top of that right arm. We're going to let the shoulder shrug all the way. Actually, let's do some wrist work first. So just kind of sit up enough that you can kind of smush your wrist in circles on the floor here and weight it in all different ways. You can change your circles. You can bend your elbow as much as you need to. Just kind of give your wrist that information that it can take load in all different directions. And then ground through your hand. And just stack your knees and let your right shoulder shrug up toward your ear and really feel some length through your whole right rib cage. And then push down, lower that shoulder blade and engage through that right side body. And just move there, flossing through your shoulder, but also getting those intercostals and your obliques on that right side body. And really let that shoulder go through its whole range of motion. Really elevate that shoulder blade, come all the way towards your ear as much as you can, lengthen through that right side body, and then really push down and engage all of these, your serratus here, your lats on the back as you lower. Okay, we're gonna do one more. Let everything droop, kind of hammocking here, and then push and lengthen through your left leg and just lift up onto your right knee. Find a modified side plank and reach that left arm around and just find some big arm circles with that left arm. Go through your whole range of motion that you can find in that left shoulder and just switch directions. Find some external rotation of that right upper arm. So you're turning your elbow crease the same direction as your fingers. And then drop that right hip. And we'll just switch over to the left. So you'll come to your left side, stack your knees. And then find those wrist smooshes. Just kind of load that left wrist in all different directions. And then ground. Drop that rib cage down, shrug your shoulder up toward your ear, and then really push down, let your shoulder blade lower. And then droop and find that length through your whole left rib cage, and then push and lift up. And let the movement be pretty slow so you can feel the engagement of those muscles that move your shoulder blade and your ribs. All right, next time you push down, find external rotation of this left upper arm. So your elbow crease is pointing toward those fingers. Lengthen out through your right leg, come up on that left knee, and then find your big shoulder circles here with that right arm. as big as you can make them. And switch directions. And then drop that left hip down and come back to your windshield wipers. Just prop yourself up, or maybe now you can do it without hands. Let your knees come apart. Tuck your left heel towards your bum and then step your right foot just in front of that left ankle. We're going to rock forward onto your left shin. I want you to keep your right heel grounded and just lean some body weight into that right thigh. Now, keep your heel grounded and then feel like you're pulling your toes up towards your knee. So you're really turning on all of this in the front of your shin. And the same time, you're lengthening through the back of your heel. You can even reach forward, try to keep your heel grounded and lengthen through that Achilles tendon. And then lift your heel. Come up onto those toes and then ground it. And pretend you're lifting your toes. Maybe they come up. And just go through that foot a few more times, just at your own pace. But really pouring all that body weight onto your right thigh. So you really get an opening, grounding through that right heel. Plant your hands. We'll just lift our hips and step our left foot back into a low lunge and then come on up. And from here, we'll find our tandem kneel. Just untuck those left toes, walk that right foot in line with your left knee. Find your balance. I'm wobbly today. And then see if you can float that right foot up off the floor. Bring it back to hover by your left knee and bring your hands down. So you're in a table with your right knee up. And we'll find our hip circles. So right knee towards your right armpit and then towards your chest, and then push your heel toward the ceiling. Try to keep your spine neutral so you're not exaggerating your lower back curve here. And then switch directions. Knee toward your chest and then out to the side, heel toward the ceiling. Knee toward your chest, out to the side, heel toward the ceiling. And come on in. Push it back. Come out to the side and then lengthen that right leg out and ground through your foot. Find a little bit of movement in your pelvis here. Just tuck and then untuck. Feel that in that right inner thigh. And find a neutral spine. Walk your hands back towards your knee. Come upright. Right hand on that right thigh. Lift your left arm up. And just find a side bend there. And come on up. Just bend your right knee in. Step your left foot forward and then sit back onto that right heel a little bit. So we're setting up for this ankle stretch on the other side. It's called combat pose, I guess, because you would brace to shoot a gun. But lean your weight onto that your left thigh this time, and think about your lifting those left toes up. They probably won't lift up, but really just turn on everything in the front of that ankle. Maybe use some weight to reach forward. And then you can play with lifting that heel. Maybe get a little calf cramp. And then grounding your heel. And then lifting your heel. And grounding your heel. Lifting your heel. And grounding your heel. And then plant your hands just so you can step that right knee back. Find your low lunge and come on up. And then your knee, shin, heel, toes, they're all in a line. Step your left foot, toe heel that left foot. So it's right in line with your right knee. And just feel your balance here. Notice if it's different than it was on the first side. Okay, let yourself feel stable through that right shin. You can come up onto your left toes and then maybe float that left foot up off the floor. See if you can keep your knee floating as you bring your hands down into your table and come into your hip cars. So bring your left knee towards your left armpit into your chest. Try to keep your pelvis as neutral as possible and your spine as stable as possible here. So you're not rocking, you're just moving through your hip joint. After you've done this direction 2 or 3 times, then switch and bring your knee to your chest, out to the side, heel toward the ceiling. So this is an exploration of your hip joint and your active ability to use your muscles just right around that joint to move it into its full range of motion. Kick that leg back, out to the side, and then straighten that leg and bring your foot to the floor, and then find your little cat and cow movement of your pelvis. Just rounding down and then sending that tailbone toward the ceiling. And find a neutral place. So between those two extremes, walk your hand towards your right knee and come upright. Left hand on your left thigh. Reach that right arm up and over. Just long stretch through that right side body. Come upright. Just bring your left knee down. Just cross your ankles underneath you and sit again. Scoot back up to the top of my space. And now we'll do those windshield wipers without hands. And see if, as you open one knee, see if you can keep the other knee grounded as long as you can until you have to bring it with you. So lift this left knee, keep my right leg down as long as I can. Let's even ourselves out. So go both directions equal amount of times and then come to center. Ground through your feet and then let your spine get long. You can hold on to the backs of your thighs. We're going to roll down onto our backs, so you get to choose. You can support with your hands on your thighs or you can float. We're going to try to go down one vertebrae at a time. So really think about tucking your tailbone down, bringing your sacrum to the floor. And then find your lower back. So you can hold onto your legs as much as you need to. You can support yourself on the floor. One vertebrae at a time. So just find those lower back vertebrae and see if you can just push down, lower, 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 till you come all the way to the floor. Walk your feet so you're set up for a bridge. So feet are parallel, pretty close to your bum. Wiggle your shoulder blades together. Now we're going to do that sequential lifting of our spine. So push your lower back into the floor so your tailbone comes up. And then lift your sacrum, back of your pelvis. And then see if you can just lift one vertebrae at a time. So just one at a time, those lower back vertebrae. And then as you get to your mid back, one at a time. And it doesn't have to be fast or even a big motion. You don't have to come up to a super high bridge. Our goal is just to start to bring more and more awareness so we have more agency over all those little muscles in our vertebrae. And when you get to the top, just start lowering one vertebrae at a time. And you can notice like what parts of your spine are easy, you have some access to, what parts are harder. Notice how you need to really recruit that deep low belly to get those lower back vertebrae down one at a time. And then just find a neutral spine and find some space under your lower back. Let's do that one more time. So you'll push those lower back vertebrae to the floor, lift your tailbone, lift your sacrum, and then one at a time, really recruit that belly, and you'll need to use your glutes to lift one at a time. And you might find a place that just kind of feels sticky. You can kind of go up and down there a couple of times to see, okay, can I really just try to move just that one vertebrae? And sometimes it just has to happen in your imagination. It takes a while, right? This is part of our body we don't see. It takes a while to kind of get it on the map in our brain. Come up and pause at the top just briefly, and then start making your way down. And just see if you can feel that thoracic spine, your rib cage spine, each vertebrae one at a time. Notice how much you need to turn your glutes and your belly on to just support that one at a time movement of your spine. When you get to your lower back, see if you can really do it one at a time. And then lower down. Okay, step your feet about 1 footprint further away. And we won't go quite so slow. Just see if you can wave your spine up off the floor. And feel like you're dragging your heels toward your shoulders. And then lower your spine back down to the floor. Find a neutral curve and then step your feet 1 more footprint away. Lift your hips, lift your spine. Feel like you're dragging your heels back towards your shoulders. Feel the whole back of your legs. Lower down. Okay, step 1 more footprint away. Your toes will probably have to be off the floor, just heels. And lift. It's a lot more hamstring, glute work there. Okay, and then all the way to straight legs. See if you can bring all the way to straight legs. Push into your heels. Draw your shoulder blades together and just lift your hips up off the floor any amount. And then lower down. And then hug your knees into your chest. Rock. And then just lengthen your legs up toward the ceiling. You can kind of shake them out. Just feel the backs of your legs. You can bend and straighten a couple of times there. And then hold on to the backs of your thighs. We're going to roll up into a boat pose. So just roll yourself up and find your balance here and boat. Maybe float. And then bring both feet to the floor. Plant your hands behind you and then kind of push yourself off. Just find some buoyancy here, pushing through your wrists. And we'll come up into a reverse table. So find the place that you like for your fingers. I like my fingers pointing toward my bum. You could have them out to the side, back. You just kind of listen to your wrists. Draw your shoulder blades together and lift your hips up. Send your tailbone the same direction as your knees. Stretch through your shoulders. And then lower your hips down. Bring your right shin in front and then take your left leg back. So now we're in a 90-90 again. Right shin is forward. And now we're just going to lean back, lift that left leg, swing it around, and then float your right leg up and then plant that left knee and come back to the other way. So we're just going to switch around here a few times. Back and switch. Back and switch. Lean back and switch. And then lean back. We're going to plant your right foot down rock forward and step your left foot back, set up for a high lunge. So you might toe heel that right foot to the right a little bit, come onto the ball of your left foot, and then float your hands back by your hips. Push down through your right heel to come on up into a high lunge. Just reach your arms high. And see if you can soften those front low ribs down. Reach up through your ring fingers. Then we'll ground the left heel and open into warrior two. So think about that right heel drawing a line toward your left heel or arch, opening your arms out. And like we did at the beginning of class when we were sitting, I want you to play with this left hip. So you're going to engage through your glute and push forward, and then deepen that crease and kind of push back. And just move your pelvis there in your warrior two. And just see if you can find that movement of that back hip. And you'll find it in both, but just focus on it in that back. And then find a neutral place. So kind of in between those two extremes of really sending that hip back, really sending it forward. Find the place right in between. And then settle into your warrior two. Look out over those right fingertips. Engage through that right glute. And maybe lift through your right toes. Ground through that right heel. Then you can let go of that effort in those right toes. Just drop them down. Drop your left hand to your left thigh and reach your right arm up. Stay committed to the bend in that right knee as you reverse your warrior. And then bring your right forearm to your right thigh and lengthen your left arm alongside your ear for side angle pose. And take one more breath here. And then bring your left hand to the floor. I'm going to come onto the pinky edge of your left foot and turn your right toes to. Okay. I'm back. Can you guys see me?
Yes.
But okay. So sorry, we're here setting up for a side plank. So turn those right toes to the right. And you can use this right leg as a kickstand. Externally rotate that left upper arm. And then maybe you could try stacking, but you don't have to. You can keep this right foot there. One more breath. And then bring that right hand down and step back into downward facing dog. We've done a lot of practice without a single downward dog. Feel the length in both of your legs. Notice the difference from one side to the other. Notice your difference in your shoulders. Inhale onto your tippy toes, look forward. Exhale, bend into your knees. Take a walk up to the top of your mat and then just come back into your seat. And we'll find those switches in our 90-90. So I'm starting with my left leg forward. Just gonna swing that right leg around. Lift your left leg, plant that right shin, and swing your left around. Back and forth. Right, and we're just gaining more agency in those muscles around our hips. So we can just move them in all the directions they're designed to with our own strength. Rock yourself forward and then just bend that right knee, ground through your left foot and step back into your high lunge. Set yourself up so you're stable and then come all the way. Reach your arms high. And just breathe here. Ground through your right heel. Open yourself up into your warrior two. And then we'll find that engagement with that right hip. So send that femur bone back and then forward. So you're moving through your pelvis. And then find that center place. Open your arms. You can let your gaze go over those left fingertips. And then drop your right hand, reverse your warrior. Committed to the bend in that front knee. And then left forearm to left thigh. Reach your right arm alongside your ear. And lengthen, lengthen, lengthen. And then like we did earlier in the practice, don't let this, you can play with it, your shoulder toward your ear, but then push it away. Find that length there. So that dropping down of that left shoulder blade. And then swim your right hand to the floor. Come onto the pinky edge of that right foot. Externally rotate this right upper arm as you turn those left toes to the left. And reach your left arm up. You can stay here. You could float and stack your feet or have that left foot in front. And then left hand down. Find your downward facing dog. And just pedal out your feet here. Kind of paw the ground with your hands. You can feel like you're really grabbing your fingertips into the floor so your fingernails would turn white. And then lengthen through your side bodies. Soften your knees and just kind of find some movement in your pelvis here. You can find your tuck and then push your tailbone back. And then really take your inner thighs and push them back. Soften your lower ribs toward your spine. And we'll do our hip cars here. So you can either come back down onto your knees and find those circles of your hips, or you can do it from downward facing dog. Just bending into that right knee toward your armpit, out to the side, up and back. Just do 2 times in each direction. And then switch sides. You can take a break if you need to. And that knee out to the side. And let your breath just be natural, in and out of your nose. And try to keep your pelvis as still as possible. And then find your downward facing dog. Knees to the floor. Walk your hands forward, find a puppy pose. So hips are over your knees, drop your heart toward the floor. Forehead or chin to the floor. I forgot to grab a hair thing today, so I really got a mess. And then walk your hands back toward your knees. And just let yourself recalibrate. Palms face up on your thighs. And feel your heartbeat. And then just shift your hips to one side. Swing your legs out in front of you. We'll do one more round of reverse table. So tuck and plant your hands behind you. Draw your shoulder blades together. Push into your feet and lift your hips. And think about sending your tailbone the same direction as your knees. Just keep your gaze straight up at the ceiling. And then lower down. And we're going to switch from side to side. So I'm going to start turning my right fingertips away from me. And then I'm just going to sweep my left arm up and over and find a big side bend here. And then drop back down. Plant my left hand, fingers facing away from me, and lift up the other way. And just go back and forth a couple of times. Lower down. We're going to find an active form of pigeon. So cross your ankles and rock forward onto your hands and knees. And bring your right knee towards your right wrist. And make sure the top of your right shin and the top of your foot can all be on the floor. And then toe heel that left leg back till you get a place that feels like a nice stretch, but you can still be stable. Really push into that right shin and bring your torso upright. You can tuck those left toes and maybe even lift that left knee up off the floor. We're just gonna hold here, feeling that strength. So feel like you're pulling your knees toward each other. And take one more breath. And then drop your right hip toward the floor. You can use your hands. Swim that left leg forward. And then right knee up, right foot down. I'm going to plant through that left hand behind you, fingers face away. So find external rotation in that left upper arm. And then push into your right foot, lift your hips, and just swim that right arm over your ear for a wild thing, a side plank variation. And then lower down. Bend through that left knee and swim that right leg behind you. Bring your left shin to the floor, top of your foot to the floor. Okay. And then feel like you're hugging your knees toward each other to lift yourself upright. You can even play with lifting that back knee. Listen to what feels good in your lower back, but we're kind of working on this strength here. And take one more breath. And then drop that left hip down. Swing your right leg forward, left foot to the floor. Right hand points away from you. And then externally rotate that upper arm. Push into your left foot and lift up. Find your wild thing. So with that right hand, it's almost like you're tightening a jar lid. And then lower down. Do that again, right shin to the floor, swim that left leg back. Tuck those left toes and find your active pigeon. And then plant your hands. We're gonna come into a three-legged downward facing dog. So you'll tuck those left toes, lift your right leg up and back. And then you can bend through that right knee and drop your foot over to your left. Maybe get light on your right fingertips. Find that external rotation of that left arm. You can open your heart to the right. And maybe you can turn to the pinky edge of that left foot. Maybe drop those right toes to the floor and find your wild thing this way. Lift your hips up. And then rotate back. Right hand finds the floor. Make your way back to your downward facing dog. And then left shin comes forward to find that active pigeon here. So feel like you're squeezing those knees toward each other. Feel strong. And then plant both hands. Tuck those right toes. And then lift that left leg up and back for a three-legged dog. And you can always just come into a table here. And then bend your knee. You can open your hip. Maybe get left light on those left fingertips. Maybe come to the pinky edge of that right foot. Maybe drop those left fingertips down and reach through that left arm. And you've got that evidence of that shoulder stability throughout this whole practice with your external rotation of that upper arm. And then swim your way back into your downward facing dog. Knees to the floor. And find a child's pose here. Let your breath settle. Feel your belly expand against your thighs. You can find that Ujjayi breath. So slight constriction in the back of your throat. So you hear that whispery sound. And just let your arms go wherever is comfortable for you. And then walk your hands back towards your knees. Just shift your hips to one side. Swing your legs out. And we'll come down onto our back. So just hold on to the backs of your legs and let yourself lower down. Bring both knees into your chest. And then let go of your knees with your hands. Interlace your fingers. And then push your palms away up toward the ceiling. And then bring them overhead toward the floor. Let your elbows bend. And let your low ribs drop to the floor. Lengthen your feet up toward the ceiling and then really push your arms away. So this is our inhale, lengthen. And then just exhale, let everything soften. Inhale to lengthen. And exhale, just let everything soften. So knees and elbows bend. Inhale. And exhale. Inhale. And exhale. Release your hands. Just bring your feet to the floor. And then hug that right knee into your chest. Grab that right outer foot and just find a happy baby pose here. So you're really compressing through that hip, drawing your knee to your outer right armpit. And then lengthen that right leg up toward the ceiling. You can hold on to the back of your thigh and find the natural curves of your spine. So feel your lower ribs on the floor, but then you've got space under your lower back. And the back of your pelvis is on the floor. And keep that. Maybe lengthen that left leg on the floor. Maybe walk your hands up that right leg a little further. I like to reach for my big toe with my peace fingers. But find some integration in that shoulder, some length in the back of that right leg. And take a breath in through your nose. And then let your exhale be as long as it possibly can. And do that one more time. Slow, long exhale. And then bend that right knee, release your right hand, and bring your left hand to your outer right knee. Draw that knee to your left, and you can open that right arm to your right. And then you can kind of play with the line of where that arm lays. So you have a nice line of tension that just feels like a nice opening in your twist. Try to keep that right shoulder grounded. Don't worry too much about getting that right knee to the floor. And then unwind yourself. Both knees bent, feet to the floor. And then hug that left knee into your chest. Grab your outer left foot with your left hand. Find that half happy baby. Compress into that low belly, into that left hip. And then bring that left leg straight. You can hold on to the back of your thigh and find the natural curves of your spine. So rib cage on the floor, tiny space under your lower back of your pelvis is on the floor, and maintain that as you lengthen through that right leg. And you can walk your hands up that left leg any amount. If you like to use a strap, you can always grab a strap here. Maintain those natural curves of your spine as you lengthen through that left leg. Slow, long, smooth exhales. So as we progress through that practice, right, we built evidence that you had strong and mobile hips, that you had stable shoulders, and we were able to build, right? We increase capacity when we study, right? We investigate, we find evidence, and then we can base our faith on that as we progress. Bend through that left knee. Use your right hand to draw that left knee over to the right. You can open your left arm. Hug both knees into your chest. Just set yourself up symmetrically. Rock from side to side. You might find some circles here. If there's any final movements that your body is craving, that you just really feel like you need to do to complete your practice, please listen to your body and do that. And when you're ready, just make your way down onto your back into your final rest. See if you can set yourself up symmetrically, your spine symmetrically. And just start by flexing and pointing your feet. Just keep your heels grounded right where they are. So don't let your heels slide or move as you move your feet. And just feel your whole body just kind of slide. Your bones slide across your skin, and then you can let those rocks of your feet get a little faster as you just shake and glide your body, just those fascial layers against each other. And let those get a little bit faster until you're really shaking. And then release the shaking and let your feet turn out and then turn in. So internal and external rotation of your legs, just out and in. And then you can let those get longer or faster. You could just sway your feet in the same direction, but just try to get your body to shake the other way. Before we were kind of going forward and back. Now we're going to go side to side. You can let your head shake. See if maybe you can shake your shoulders from side to side. And then just totally release and relax. Find some stillness, palms face up. And soft face. And really let yourself here just marinate in the fruits of your practice. Notice how your breath just softens. You don't even need to use any effort to breathe. Just let your breath breathe itself. Soft forehead, eyes, jaw. Just let yourself be. The great principle called faith is not an abstract principle separate and distinct from mind, but it is a certain condition or state of the mind itself. What does that state of faith feel like in your body? And how can you incorporate that into this day? Feel free to stay in your relaxation for as long as you have time. The divine light in me honors the divine light in you. Thank you for practicing with me. Namaste.
Namaste.